Welcome to Stories de la Frontera. I'm Laura Castañeda. The spotlight was on the southwestern border this summer as ordinary citizens calling themselves Minutemen set up campsites about 50 miles east of San Diego. But along the way, they were met by protesters who watched their every move. The armed citizens say they're fed up with border crossers entering this country illegally. They vowed to keep them off U.S. soil. But one Mexican couple outsmarted them, and what happened next was a Minuteman's worst nightmare. 1 week old Amara sleeps peacefully snuggled in her little pink jumpsuit with matching hat and booties. But the infant's life didn't begin this way. Days earlier, the baby's mother, a 16-year-old girl from Mexico, lay for hours laboring in childbirth in the dirt on the Mexican side of the steel border fence. Her boyfriend at her side, her life and the couple's baby's life at risk.
Was having her do the Lamaze breathing, trying to calm her down, but she was very, very distressed. She was in a lot of pain.
We can't take her out.
Elva Salinas witnessed the incident. Salinas, taking part in an anti-Minutemen crusade along the border, happened to be camping nearby. When her group learned what was going on, they drove to the scene to help.
Well, it was at least an hour before anybody did anything for her. It was really sad. It was a very sad situation, and it was inhumane, I felt. Very inhumane to let a little girl, 16-year-old, in labor in the dirt, and not do anything for her until somebody with some authority could make some kind of a decision.
That decision falls in the hands of Homeland Security, the U.S. Border Patrol. Originally, the teenage mother told authorities she was a U.S. citizen from Texas, but she did not have identification to prove it.
I just said, here, you take her then, so she can get medical help.
According to Jesse Diaz, another anti-Minutemen protester who was there, authorities insisted the girl be driven some 50 miles away to the nearest port of entry. As authorities debated among themselves on how to handle the emergency, Diaz reached over, scooped the girl up in his arms.
I'm holding her, and the migra right here comes close, right up to me, and he pushes me in the back and says, throw her back over, throw her back over. And I told him I wasn't going to throw her over, that she needed medical attention, that she's in labor. They were going to fine me $5,000, and that they were going to put me in prison, and that they were going to charge me with human smuggling.
As time went by, the numbers of witnesses kept growing. Minutemen, anti-Minutemen, federal agents, and eventually paramedics.
The girl's still screaming and yelling, right? It's just so intense here. The immigration's here, their hands are tied, they can't do nothing. Then they call in for a reinforcement for the ambulance. The ambulance comes, and they come here, and they still, the immigration wouldn't let them go on that side either, right? So they're all hanging over the fence here, trying to assist this girl the best they can without going over. And then his two biggest paramedics jumped over. They got her, the stretcher was already here, and they just basically dropped her right into the stretcher.
The teenage mother was driven to an American hospital, Grossmont Hospital here in La Mesa, where miraculously she gave birth to a healthy baby girl. But as soon as the shy 16-year-old was able, she called on relatives who then drove her and her infant girl right back to Mexico. In a stunning twist from a relative's home in Mexico, the baby's father reveals the emergency near the border that night was deliberately planned.
There is no reason for her to be jumping the fence walking through the desert. We did it so she won't suffer so much. I told her, don't be afraid. They have to tend to you. They won't let you die.
But Elias Lopez now admits he never expected authorities to take so long to help the young mother and her unborn child.
I asked for the immigration officer's name. He told me no. I said, you know what? An official must give his name to anyone who requests it. That's your obligation. He responded, how do you know the law?
Lopez estimates the drama lasted nearly 3 hours, but a Border Patrol spokesman denies that, saying their reports indicate it was 1 hour and 5 minutes from the time the first call came in to the time the girl was rushed off in an ambulance. The father also credits the anti-Minutemen protesters for putting pressure on authorities that night and wants to personally thank them.
If they weren't there, we still would have done it. But thankfully, they were there.
The teenage mom now admits she is not a U.S. citizen, but making sure her baby girl has that privilege, she says, was worth the risk. U.S. Border Patrol declined our request to be interviewed for this story. Officials call this a rare case. They say the young mother did not commit a crime, so agents did not detain her or escort her to the hospital. A 2002 study of border hospitals, by the way, estimates undocumented patients account for 25% of unpaid hospital emergency care in the United States, while uninsured Americans account for the other 75%.